The American people should speak. You should go out and vote.
Right.
You're in voting now. Vote and let
That's
your
called a
senators.
pivot,
Like an
everybody.
answer there,
That's how you pivot in
Vote
politics.
now.
You're gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't
you're
want-
senators.
They call that a
I'm
flip.
not going to answer the
Flip
question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question.
Why
left.
not answer
Would you
that?
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
listen, who is on your list, Joe?
You say shut
Who's
up.
on your list?
Correct.
He said, will you shut up, man?
This
We've
is
ended
so
this.
He's gonna pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have
He's
ended,
not gonna give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
It's like
That was really
children arguing in a room.
Keep yapping, man.
The people understand.
Don't
Joe.
slip the hell out of that question.
47
That
years,
was
you've
nice.
done nothing. They
He
understand.
All right.
snapped on that.
The
He spit
second
on that.
subject is
Is it bad that I
COVID-19,
wanted
which is an
the
awfully serious
answer, though?
subject. So
Look, Chris said, fuck it.
let's
Let's
try
go
to be
to
serious about it. We have had more than
Yeah,
7
just go down to the
million
court.
cases. Why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID.
What a weird
Addition to
topic
that,
for the sitting president
about
to make a
between
joke out of,
750
though, you
and
know?
1,000 people today are dying.
Well, he doesn't
He
have
was
on a mask.
presented with that
He
number.
don't
He
have a
said,
mask
it
on his
is
side.
what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan.
Ooh.
He hasn't laid out anything. He
He
knew
hasn't.
all the way back in
not.
February how serious this
Come on.
crisis was.
Come on.
He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American
Us.
people.
He snapped. He
You
just
don't
put
panic. He panicked. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
So
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing.
He
We
did.
should be providing all the
down to his webpage.
protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
We have our
They're all
military
set up.
that delivers soldiers, and
What?
they can do
When?
200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone.
Bam!
Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could
Like a
inject some
miracle.
bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically.
That was
you
him.
know that.
I
That
don't-
was said sarcastically.
And so here's the
Shouldn't
deal.
have been said at
This
all.
man is talking about a
Facts.
vaccine. Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies?
Chris is like,
he's
don't
told
ask me
you
what I
about
believe.
The whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged
Biden talks
that
to
he
the
knew
people.
this was happening.
I
He
just
knew
wanna
how
say that,
dangerous it was
Biden.
going to be
I just
back in
was about to say
February,
that.
and he
Yeah.
didn't
The president
even
of the United
tell you.
States does not
He's
even talk
on
to
record
us.
as saying it.
That's
To
good,
the
Syleena.
Panicked,
argue
or he
That's
just
good.
looked at the stock market.
commentator
One of the two.
and Biden.
Because guess
Biden
what?
talks
A
to the
lot of
American
people
people.
died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot
leadership.
quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of
There
your
you go.
college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated
They're having
either
conversations
the
about
lowest
people.
or almost the
people's
lowest in
lives.
your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me.
Here you
Don't ever
go.
use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because
can't
know
use
what?
the word
There's
smart.
nothing
You're dumb
smart
as
about you,
shit.
Joe. 47 years you've done
But
nothing.
let's have
But
this
you can
debate.
tell he
If you
got
would
under
have
his
had- Let me
skin.
just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through,
I don't
I had to
need to be
close the
smart.
greatest economy in the
Joe
history
Biden
of our
got
country.
receipts. I'd
And by
have
the
been
way,
like,
now
I
it's
have
being
receipts.
built again.
You see,
It's
he
We're
didn't-
going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment.
I was the vice president of the United States.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
He
Vote on
looks
it.
When it comes
unhinged.
to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how
Trump
the
knows
virus
he's losing.
is handled going forward by whichever of you ends
Losing
up becoming the
badly. He
next
looks a
president.
fool.
I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings.
Okay.
And he's
Vice
reminiscing
President
about
Biden, you have been much more
division
reluctant
that
than
he's created in
President
this
Trump
country. That's how
about
he's
reopening the
reminds me
economy
of
and
division.
schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer.
by the way,
Shucks.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the
Okay.
Senate.
But-
And he sits on his golf course. And I mean,
Nah.
literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants
Chris
to shut
can't
down this.
even push back at Donald
And
Trump.
I
because-
wanna
at
keep it
the
open.
president because
And we did
he
a great thing
just
by
is
shutting
just
it
trying to
down.
get him to
Wait a
stop
minute, Joe.
interrupting.
Let me shut you
But
down for
then
a second, Joe,
Biden is
just for
giving him
one
space,
second.
and so he's pushing back
We
against
wanna-
what he's saying.
He
And
wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and
Mama would be
diabetes and
clapping
different
down to him.
problems are
She'd be clapping
very,
like,
very
"You
vulnerable. We learned a
kids!"
lot. Young
Get them
children
together.
aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot.
Of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
Got on
I
a
don't
mask,
I don't
she's been
wear masks
tested.
like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be
1,000
speaking
people at the Republican
200
National
feet away from it. He
Convention
shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say,
Vice
I will
President-
say
that's
Vice
not a
President
bad
Childish.
thing.
The way to
He's
open
childish.
businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The
But
Congress.
I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, if everybody wore masks and
we
social
wouldn't
distance
need a
between now and
vaccine.
January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
and they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've also
And
said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
no
also said- well, look,
serious
all right, I want to ask
person.
Fauci. Dr. Fauci
Got me
said
off.
the
He did
opposite.
not
I
say
want to ask
the
you, we got
opposite.
no,
a
very
little more than a
strong.
minute left in this
Masks
segment.
are not
Hey, you better
good.
get off my
Then he
girl. They
changed
say
his mind. He
everybody's
says
full of
masks.
not
are-
believe
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
Leave
I
her
want to
I'm
ask you
fine
alone.
with
both about
masks.
one last subject. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that
Run
you
into a
pay
battle.
$750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes,
not gonna
millions of dollars of income
He's not going to
tax.
answer it.
And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million one year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went, you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if
Oh.
you want to do,
Still
go to
working
the
on it?
Board of Elections. There's a
He's being audited
118
right now.
page or so
Yeah.
report that says everything I have.
It was a
every
yes
bank
or
I
no
have,
question.
I'm totally
He
under
did not
leveraged
answer
because
it.
the assets are extremely good. And we have a very,
Extremely good.
I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me
Yes,
tell you.
please get back
understand
to
all
it.
of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all
return.
of that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
ahead.
This is
I'm
not an
asking you a
interview. Got to
question.
hold him to it.
Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of
Five.
dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
When?
see it.
It's about your family,
They
the
didn't buy
American
$3.5
people.
million
He
dollars.
doesn't, that's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need, you, the American people.
Right.
It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right,
Take
that's
Not
the,
about
end of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take that.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I-
He
I
stood
get it.
up.
No,
He stood up
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine.
No,
No.
sir,
With $1 billion,
Sir,
if you
That
get rid of
is
the
absolutely- you know what?
absolutely not
He put a
true.
cord out his
You're
mouth.
doing it.
you're going to
Not
have.
There's
true.
so much
Gentlemen,
Pull the cord out the wall.
I hate to raise my voice,
He's
but I
on
see it seems to
tape.
be, why shouldn't I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each
This
are going
is
to
the
have
most
2
ghetto
uninterrupted
debate.
moments. In those two
This is
uninterrupted
so
moments,
ghetto.
This is
anything
so
you
ghetto.
want.
I'm
I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer
Feel like
about
I'm in a
something else, go
barber's
ahead. But
I need a drink
the
after this.
country
This is
would
a
be
vote.
better served if
I
we
need to
allowed
smoke a
both people
cigar.
to speak.
Let me tell you something.
Fewer
Not a
interruptions.
cigar,
I'm
but
allowing you,
after
sir, to
the
do
vote.
that.
Not no cigar. Watch
Well,
this.
frankly, you've been doing more
Well,
interrupting than
that's
he
all right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Is
I didn't
why
really-
should
I
voters
can't-
trust
I gotta
you
go.
rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice
That's
President
tight.
Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But We've never accomplished it, but we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is whose
Now,
2
second-
minutes, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when
He's a
Floyd
child.
was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the
Right.
military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not
Right.
add to the violence in a number of these
Watch
cities,
this.
as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that,
specifically
but
Do it.
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right
So
wing.
what are you
What
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would you
white
like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right wing
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director.
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
Go ahead,
white
no,
supremacists.
go ahead, sir.
Antifa is an
Guys,
idea,
he would not
not an
denounce white
organization.
You gotta be
Not
kidding.
malicious.
This
That's
is
what
huge.
his
It's an idea.
FBI, his
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
No,
He's
no,
wrong.
we're done, sir. We're
Everybody-
moving on to the next.
everybody
We're
gives
moving.
you
Bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head. That's
administration.
not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa-
Pistol.
Antifa
Just shoot
is
him
a
in the air and be like,
dangerous
all right,
radical
Gentlemen,
Get
we're
up.
now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to
Biden
be careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question.
This is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You're going to get 4 more years of these lies.
President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen.
What?
I am
That
urging
is
them to do it.
Awful.
As you know, today there was a big problem in
Oh my
Philadelphia. They went in
It's
to
voter
watch.
intimidation.
They're called
What?
poll watchers.
It's
A very
voter
safe, very
suppression.
nice thing.
What in the
They were
entire
thrown
fuck
out.
is
They weren't
happening
allowed to
here,
watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia. Bad
So
things.
you're empowering
And I am
citizens
urging.
to
I
act
am
like
urging my
authority?
people. I hope it's
What
going to be a fair
insane.
election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that.
God
And I'll
help
tell
you.
you
What
what,
does that
from
mean?
a
Not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're
I'll
going
tell
to
you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to
It
the
means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what will you
ballots.
do
They're
about
not,
that?
they're not
This is
equipped.
in God's hands.
These people aren't equipped to
We
handle
can't
it.
do this. We
Number
can't-
one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat.
Until then, thank you and good night.
Kamala is going to get Pence's ass together. Do you
I need
hear me?
therapy after this. And
That
I'm
was
a,
exhausting. Yeah, I'm so
I'm a
awesome.
therapist.
I want to go to bed.